Here we are with Marcie Kahbody, the CIO for the California State Transportation Agency and the California Department of Transportation. Marcie, thanks for being with us. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing fantastic. What a great day today. Thank you for having me here.
Of course, we're so happy to have you and so happy to hear about all the IT modernization stuff that you have going on. And we've known each other for a while, and we specifically reached out this time because I really think that the perspective that you bring as an agency CIO and a department CIO provides a really unique look at the challenges and the approaches when it comes to AI and IT modernization. So just kind of tell us a little bit about what you got going on and what that perspective means to you and what you're seeing in the IT modernization space.
Thank you very much. I wear two hats. I'm the agency CIO, or in California, we call it Agency Information Officer. And also, this is a transportation agency. I'm also the CIO of Transportation Department. The statewide CIO office kind of sets the overall direction, policies, and standards for modernization and AI. But me, as the agency CIO and also department CIO, we implement these directives. So in my capacity at CalSTA and Caltrans, as well as serving, I'm actually the co-chair of the State Technology Councils. I'm responsible for shaping statewide policies. Additionally, I'm tasked with transforming these policies into funded operational solutions that influence safety, mobility, and service delivery. I've been serving, I think I've already told you that I've been serving at CalSTA as information officer, agency information officer for the last 10 years. But about 3 years ago, I decided that I want to take on the CIO role at Caltrans as well, combining the agency level strategy with department level execution aimed to make the role more effective. This approach helped me align policy and operation and achieve modernization outcomes. In California, department CIOs are closest to the programs, districts, engineers, planners, and frontline staff. We understand which systems are mission critical, where data gaps are, and where modernization will have the biggest public impact. We are a people first organization, so public impact is the most important in our mission. We take concepts like Gen AI policy, cybersecurity standards, or data governance, and we make them work in crash analysis, permitting, planning, payments, and safety decisions. So in short, statewide CIO office sets the what and why, and agency and department CIOs deliver the how, by whom, by when, how much, where the funding comes, and basically all of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think it's so valuable to hear that perspective because, at State Scoop we do traditionally feature the statewide CIOs and they certainly have a large purview, but as you said, the department CIO is getting right close to those projects, getting close to that customer, super, super important. I'd imagine with these approaches to IT modernization and AI, there are probably a number of challenges that you uniquely face in that role. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those challenges and what you're doing around them?
Absolutely. So there are, of course, many challenges that comes with technology. One of the biggest challenge in leading IT modernization as an agency and department CIO is the delicate balance between transformation and stability. We are responsible for modernizing legacy systems that are deeply embedded in mission critical operations, while ensuring these systems continue to function every day without any kind of disruption. At Caltrans, this includes systems that support permitting, payments, traffic insights, safety operations, and infrastructure project delivery. There is really no room for failure, but there is also an urgent need to modernize. We have a lot of legacy systems. Another challenge is the complexity of bringing together data, funding, governance, talent, and organizational readiness. For example, when we began standing up the Chief Data and AI Officer role for our Gen AI projects and initiate Gen AI pilots like Traffic Mobility Insight and VRU, the technology itself really was not the hardest part. I always say the technology is the easiest part of any project. The real challenge was aligning governance, responsible AI use, ensuring data quality and security, securing funding across department and agency, and preparing people to use the tool correctly and be confident in using it. Working across CalSTA and Caltrans, I also see firsthand how modernization is not just an IT project. It requires business ownership, legislative awareness, and executive support. And I have to tell you that I can't emphasize enough. Executive support is the biggest part of this modernization. You absolutely need to have executive support to move forward. Often funding is tied to programs rather than enterprise capabilities. We should frame modernization as enhancing safety, mobility, equity, and service delivery rather than just a technical upgrade. This shift is the narrative. This shift in narrative is really, really important. Talent is another major challenge. The private sector is moving quickly, but in state government, when trying to modernize within hiring classifications that don't always align with AI, data science, or cybersecurity roles, I've had to push for higher salary ranges so we can bring the right experts to protect and strengthen the state's infrastructure. Finally, modernization requires cultural transformation. Some of our teams have been using the same processes and tools for decades. Helping them shift from a compliance mindset to an innovation and performance mindset takes consistent communication, training, and showing value through pilot success. For example, at Caltrans, we have deployed the Copilot proof of concept, and staff saw how this tool can assist in reducing hours of manual work into minutes, and that helped buy in more than any kind of policy could. So we have many, many challenges: technology, funding, policy, security, people, culture, and change management. But that also where the real opportunity lies. It allows us to step beyond being just an IT leader. I feel I've become a business strategist, a change agent, and connectors across the enterprise.
I want to dive into a couple of those points that you made because I think to start the process improvement piece is so key, right? It's something that we've been hearing for years, but I think now in the era of AI and in the era of kind of this scale of IT modernization, the way that you go about process improvement is super super important. So tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us a little bit more about some of those process improvement efforts.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's been one of the hardest part of my job, process improvement, because some of the processes in state are very old. We kind of put processes in place, or we have put processes in place 20 years ago, and we still think that we have to use those processes. So facilitating policy improvement in public service goes beyond technology. It's about aligning people, policy, data, and culture to create a system that continuously learns and improves. In my experience, process improvement works best when business and IT don't operate in separate lanes. We've learned that modernization only succeeds when program leaders, operations, cybersecurity, policy, legal, IT, everybody sits at the same table as co-owners. At Caltrans, when we redesign a legacy system or we want to improve a system, we bring all these groups together early on. That allows us to streamline approvals, reduce bottlenecks, and design solutions that reflect real business needs, not just a technical capability. I always tell my team, we are not bringing that shiny tool because, and as technologists, we love the newest thing that comes out in the market. We just want to make sure that we are meeting business needs. I've also learned that talking about process improvement is not as effective as showing it. When we deployed the GenAI Traffic Mobility Insight, for example, the pilot, instead of describing automation or data integration, we let staff actually use it. They saw crash insight, recommendations of countermeasures, bottleneck analysis generated in minutes instead of weeks. That experience alone created instant buy-in because they could feel the benefit and the value, not just IT talking about data and cybersecurity and data analytics. Process improvement also isn't just about moving faster. It's about doing it safely, responsibly, and with good governance. When we created the Gen AI governance framework at Caltrans and we stood up the Chief Data and AI Officer role, it wasn't only about control. It was designed to protect data, shorten internal approval time, and make it easier for program to innovate without getting caught in red tape. And in public service, we have a lot of red tape because we want to make sure that we are acting with equity. Finally, process improvement must be part of the culture, not just a project or initiative. I encourage teams to challenge. We've always done it this way. I actually really dislike this word when we have been doing something for so many years, and we think that's the way to do the tasks. We cannot really change anything. We are now embedding innovation and improvement into performance goals so people see themselves as part of the change and not just recipients of it. So I feel like when you include people to kind of decide on what the path or what the process improvement should be, they can embrace it easier. That's how we shift from checking boxes to delivering outcomes and ultimately providing faster, smarter, and more modern public service.
I think that's such a good point, and I couldn't help but chuckle a little bit as you were talking. Faster in a transportation agency means multiple things, right?
Exactly,
Which
exactly.
is
I mean,
funny. Yeah,
faster doesn't always mean it's best. We have to be very mindful of not to putting the department at risk. There won't be any, especially with Gen AI these days, bias is the biggest thing. So
yeah,
our data quality, having people in the loop, having to check the outcome of the Gen AI use cases is the most important part of the project.
yeah. And I mean, to kind of wrap it up, earlier you talked about one of the key pieces for you being getting that executive buy-in, right? And working with your agency leaders to make sure everyone's on the same page and that they can help clear out some of the barriers for you to get the job done. So, I know for a fact, right, from all the conversations today and all the conversations that we've had over the years at State Scoop that getting that executive buy-in, making sure those things are clear is such a challenge for state and local leaders. So tell us your secret sauce. What works for you and how do you make it effective in your agency?
34 and a half years of experience, I think that can be part of it. But when it comes to securing executive buy-in, I've learned through the 34 and a half years of experience that it's most effective when we stop talking about technology and instead we connect modernization to department's mission, like safety, mobility, operational reliability, and public trust. When leaders see modernization as improving outcomes for Californians, not just upgrading systems, that conversation kind of shifts. I also focus on showing quick wins, not just making long business cases. Executives respond strongly when they can see real improvements in decision making, service delivery, or operational efficiency. Once they see it working in one area, they usually say, how can we scale this? That's why we do a lot of pilots to kind of show value before we can deploy it to all of Caltrans. I'm always transparent about the risks, like cybersecurity risks or change management or data quality, funding. But I also emphasize that the bigger risk in doing nothing and keeping the systems as it is, that is the biggest risk that we have. Keeping old systems doesn't just slow us down, it raises our risk profile and drives up operational risks and cost. And finally, I've learned that stories are the most effective rather than dashboards. sharing how modernization empowers the staff, improves safety decisions, or accelerates our ability to respond to public needs will always resonate more than just talking about platforms or tools. When leaders see the human and public impact, that's when true buy-in happens. When we were deploying, for instance, Copilot, I started utilizing the Copilot for my slide decks, and I could generate a slide deck in a matter of minutes rather than, hours of trying to pull in pictures or trying to summarize an idea. And just talking about how I built a slide deck created that buy-in to bring in Copilot for all of Caltrans. We first started the use case with 100 people, and now we are expanding the pilot to all of Caltrans, which is about 19,000 employees. So kind of storytelling, showing what it will bring value as opposed to, okay, this big shiny IT tool that I want to bring because I'm in technology and I love to bring the newest technology. I think that has helped me.
That's great. Yeah, such a cool story, and to hear those use cases and ways that these tools are saving you time, but also helping you make things different for citizens and residents who are using your services. That's huge.
Absolutely. We have different tools that we have deployed, tools that are helping us help the citizens create safer roads, and also performance tools within Caltrans so that we can do our jobs better.
Yeah. Well, Marcie, I can't wait to check in and hear how all this is going in the future. It means so much that you took some time to be with us today, and thank you for sharing all this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. I hope that I'm of any help to anybody that's listening, and I would be happy to help further if they want to reach out to me.
Love that. Thank you so much. And to our audience, stay tuned for more from today's IT Modernization Summit.